next year, with the addition of the 4 teams on the West Coast, Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington, not every team is going to make the tournament. So now we know you're in that bottom 4 right now. You still get to go to the tournament. You don't get a bye, but you've got a shot at it. Now conference play is going to be even more important. Robbie, how does this affect things?
Well, we have not seen a winner, at least on the men's side, and I'm guessing the women's side this is the same thing. Anyone that's played on Wednesday has never actually won the tournament, just because you'd have to play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So five games in 5 days would be a challenge. This does add some intrigue, I think, to the regular season, just because now you do have teams that are fighting for their tournament and postseason lives. And we've always had the mantra in the Big Ten tournament, well, anyone can win, right? Like anyone can still make that magical run and make the NCAA tournament. Whereas now, if you are one of the bottom teams that doesn't get in, that's not necessarily the case. So I think that it does add another storyline. You can watch like, hey, who has a chance to make the Big Ten tournament? Who doesn't? That's something to talk about. But when you look at the reality of it, it's not like we've had Wednesday teams making runs all the way there. Ohio State got close last year. They made the semi, but you could tell by Saturday they played Purdue and they were just gassed. So it does give us something to talk about though. So I understand, like if we had Tuesday to Sunday, that's a long tournament right there.
But Megan, what about the teams that are trying to get into like the WNIT, the NIT, and you don't even make your conference tournament? You're trying to go to a postseason. How does that come into play?
There's 2 sides to this. The one, of course, being that teams that play on Tuesday or Wednesday likely are not going to have the energy it takes to sustain winning the whole entire tournament. There is still that magic of March where, okay, the calendar turns over. You still have a chance to go to the tournament if you win your conference tournament. And to me, that's what makes March so special. Even if it's likely not going to happen, you still got a possibility that it's there. And it does motivate some teams to maybe pick up a couple of wins and maybe become a part of the conversation for the WNIT or the WBIT this year that's been added on the women's side. But ultimately, again, the teams that are in the bottom of the league starting to play early on in the conference tournament likely aren't even going to make it. But we're in a weird time of college basketball because a lot of teams are taking longer to come together. You want to be playing your best basketball in the month of February going into March. We've seen it all across the board, though. With the transfer portal being the way it is and you're bringing players in, it takes longer to build that chemistry and get that flow going. So I'm curious over the course of the next couple of years, like teams that should be maybe, in that middle of the pack, if they fall back because they had so many transfers come in and they just haven't found time to click yet and it's too late by the time they do, it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out.
That's a great point. And that's on coaches to try and figure out how many transfers is worth it and is it going to mess up the flow and all that kind of stuff. Not that they need any more on their plate with how things are going these days. The other wrinkle, too, is that with more teams, but the conference games are staying the same. 20 for the men, 18 for the women. So you may have a scenario where you're not going to play every single team every season because they still want to keep some of those rivalries. They want to have a home and away. Robbie, like what happens if you don't get to play USC or, I'm just throwing a name out there.
No, that's a very valid question. The schedules are no longer balanced and they haven't been since really like me and Megan were both playing. So when the Big Ten was back at 11 teams and there were only a couple teams you didn't play twice. Well, now we've certainly added way more. And I think that more so this calls into question like Big Ten championships. I think that schedules are going to play a large part in that. Who are you playing twice? Who are you not playing on the road? I also look at all conference teams. Now that we've added all these new teams, is it appropriate to have first team all Big Ten only be 5 guys? Or should that move to 7 or 8? Or should it even move to 10? Now that there's, what we have 18 teams now? Is that right? 18 teams in the Big Ten. So I think that is called into question. It's just going to be, there's going to be some adjustments here. But I do think that it does kind of change some of the things that we've looked at as normal now are going to have to be looked at a little bit differently or through a different lens.